Okay, good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is that you're watching this. So, what we've got here, let's start on final sort of stages of getting this thing ready for rego. Um, so, the tray actually came off another ute, so it needs a good polish. Um, Bumper bar, that's got to be painted still, but what I'm going to do today is going to decontaminate it with Iron-X. If you ever use that stuff, it stinks to high heaven. It's horrible. But what it'll do will remove any iron fallout. So brake dust material embedded in the paint, all that sort of stuff. Get that out. We'll clay bar it, and then single stage correction on the paintwork. And then after that, I might even do a bit of paintless dent removal. Probably can't see. Oh, there you go. You can see the dents in tailgate. We've got one whopper down there. That's the other big one that I'm not really keen on keeping. So, see if we can remove this beautiful pinstripe along here too. That's pretty light, so it should come out. Maybe even see if I can get rid of some of these dents, because all this stuff's going to show up a lot more once it's been detailed and buffed up with a bit of shine on it. And so the plan is, obviously it needs to be lower. A lot lower. It's way too high. Bring it down. Chrome dress rings on the steelies. Tonneau cover on there, on the tray. And just have a nice clean cruiser. And possibly later on tint the windows too. Anyway, I'll give you some updates as I go. So this is the fallout remover, or Iron-X. This brand is. As you can see, all the purple, there's little bits of metal or iron, ferrous material embedded in the paintwork. The problem with this thing is it sort of shows up a lot easier in person, but it's everywhere. Everywhere. Etches into your glass, brake panels, sorry, from the brake pads, all the panels down low, you can see there. It's pretty obvious what sort of life a car's led. You can spray this on too, whether it's, had any panel repairs, you can tend to see where the metal sparks went and they embedded themselves in the paintwork. It's interesting stuff, but it does do a good job decontaminating the paint. Just shouldn't really be doing this in full sun if I can help it, but I don't have a choice. If you do it, try to avoid doing it in full sun. You don't want it drying on the paintwork. Okay, so next step after the Iron-X is done, I'll show you. So it cleaned up a little bit. That's raw metal now, where it had a battery explosion. So that's that tray I welded up in there. Replace the tray inside there. So, and part of the frame as well, the bodywork. So now next step after that is clay bar. So these are your clay bars. This is how they normally come. What I suggest you do is you break it up into quarters and use quarter at a time. Got a bucket of car wash, straight in the car wash, let it soak for a minute or two. The warmer the clay bar is, the more malleable it is, the easier you'll find it is to use on the car. Use lubrication when using it, so there are a lot of rinseless washes you can use, or you'll see a package deal of clay bar with a spray. A lot of them, some of them will say that they're guaranteed to leave no scratches or streaks or rids or anything like that. It's not normally the case depending on the application. So normally this is only done before you do paint correction. I wouldn't advise doing it and hoping for the best to just do a wax afterwards. You can buy clay towels. I normally do use clay towels. For the life of me, I can't find it. So anyway, back to the old clay bars. But if you're doing this in winter, boil a kettle. Chuck a kettle worth inside the bucket, so this softens up. Otherwise you'll find in winter it's just too hard. You can't do it, you can't use it, and it'll just annoy you. So basically just on the paintwork, straight lines. You can hear the noise, and then it goes silent. Can even see some of the brown starting to pick up off the paintwork. So basically just do that all over and leaves the paintwork nice and smooth, ready for correction. So one of the really important things I forgot to tell you, the reason why I break it up into 4 is because it'll actually become quite contaminated. And also in case you drop it. If you drop it, you throw it out. Do not keep using it because it's just going to pick up every little grain and bit of grass, whatever you're washing it on, and it'll embed into your paintwork. Another thing that's good too is you can actually go up and around all these little corners and get that tarnished paint looking a little bit better. So the next step after this is, once it's dry, it'll get masked up, and then from there the paint correction starts. So some of those little corners are a bit hard to get into once you've masked everything up, because if I get polish on that black, it's going to soak it up like a sponge, and it'll never look right. You just have to keep putting something on it like Armor All and stuff like that. So this is going to be a daily driver. I want it to be able to, I'm not going to shine the tyres every week. It's going to be driven. It is a ute. It's going to be used as a ute too. So I want it to be clean and presentable, but at the same time, it's not going to be some of that Stop 20 material. Alright, so now it's all decontaminated. I'll walk you around the car. So, as you can see, it's pretty dull, but it's contaminant free. So I even did all inside the door jambs, inside there, all around the tailgate as well. Clean all that up. Now this side had a ton of tar in it too, or on it I should say. So what I use, it's cheaper, much cheaper, white spirits, dry cleaning fluid from Bunnings. Costs about $5-6 a litre. It will not remove bugs. Honestly, the best bug remover is just soaking the car. So if you can leave it outside if it's a dewy night, that's a really good way to get rid of the bugs on the front. You'll notice after the rain you lose all the bugs, things like that. So this stuff is good for tar and tar only, especially after they've done a lot of road works. Anyway, now I'll just wait for this truck to go past. There you go. Motor for a wind turbine. Anyway, where was I? Yep, so let it dry off totally, give it a while in the sun, and then I'll move it inside, let it cool down. You can't buff hot paint, it just doesn't work. Your polish will dry out and not work very well. So dry that off and then mask it up, and then what we'll do a few trial runs, different types of correction. So different compounds work on different paints. This being very chalky and single stage, something oily. So what I used to use on all the Toyota single stage paints up to like 100 series, that should work quite well in this case. I just wanted to show you a couple of little things what I do, especially when it comes to falcons, because I've had so many of them. Sort of got used to little traits and problems with. So I pulled off all of this trim here. I started off by pulling off the one on the bonnet. We can see that line running along there. It's just wouldn't come out with the clay bar. If I go near it with polish, I'll get the polish on it and I'll muck it up and have lines on it and just be fighting it the whole time. It's not worth it. So I like to clean the scuttle out anyway. Now this one, it's a bit of a rush job because, as you know, it's got an engine, it's got a lot of work done to it. You see all the muck just sitting in there. So that's what starts these the rust in these firewalls, especially X series. Best thing you can do with the X series is actually pull the guards off. See, in an X series, round about, where are we? Here, that plenum will drain out. It blocks up and then it runs down the guard, and you have a plate that bolts inside your guard there, and down the bottom here is the end of your sill where the guard actually covers over it in the X series is your what they call a torque box. The water, muck, everything it blocks up there. If it doesn't block up there, it'll build up behind that plate down here, sit there, stay wet, and start to rust straight through the top of the torque box. So I've had X series that bad that they've failed. I've been given the car because it got failed rego that bad that when you press the brake pedal, the entire firewall moved away. So you just got to be really careful if you're looking at a shell and like that, a resto. It's well worth going to the bother of trying to find one that you can actually have a look in there. You can pull the cover off in an X series too, the plastic scuttle panel cover. It doesn't really give you a great view inside there. Best thing you can do is pull those guards off. Now, another thing I want to show you is that, yes, I did have my own detailing business to help out with income when the kids were a lot younger. So this is some of the collection I've left. These are my polishers. There's a couple of waxes in there too. But probably what I'm going to try on this thing is you really can't go wrong. Meg's M100 is a fantastic compound. 3D, it's very good for single stage paints too. Both of these are very similar in their cutting ability and also how well they work. Some of the pads that I have, I'm going to use in the flex polisher. So this is a random orbital, but it's a forced random orbital. It doesn't, if you press down on it, it'll just burn through the paint if you're not careful. It's very different to the rupes or rupees or rupees or whatever you want to call them. But in here is just a selection of my pads and that I used to use, all the different grades, wet sanding as well. But I'm going to try M100 first of all because I do like that. The thing is with it, you got to keep it wet, and this is going to dry out really quick. So I'm going to use some of this. This is just detailing spray. Detailing spray, anything like that, spray it on the panel, buff the section, and then you must clean the pad. So you must work clean. You're going to remove a lot of contaminants. So a brush that's probably a bit too soft, I do have another brush in here somewhere, a stiffer bristled brush somewhere, but the idea of those is that, there it is. So this is special pad brush. So pad will be on there, start it up and move this across like that. What it'll do, it cleans all the contaminants off the paint. Always run compressed air too. So after it starts to clog up quite badly, I'll spray it with a lot of water and then blow it out compressed air to clean that pad out. The cleaner you work, the better your finish will be, and the faster you work too. So now I've got rid of a lot of the decontaminants out of the paint. It looks dull, which is pretty good actually, because I can correct that quite easily. But what I've done is there's no tar left on it, there's no iron particles left on it, there's nothing embedded in the paint anymore. Well, feels like it anyway. So we'll see what little evils this brings up now, because I'm sure it's going to bring up a lot. So I'll keep you informed. There you go, little trial and error. You can see sort of shine coming off that now. It's hard with white. So there's a lot of contaminants coming off this. That had 2 passes done on it and it just started clogging up. It's not aggressive enough. So I've gone to one of the most aggressive foam pads I have, yellow one here. It's drawing the moisture out of the polish really quickly, so much that I have to use detail spray afterwards if I buff too long. But it's getting the result, and that's the thing. Like it'll come up quite nicely, this, other than little imperfections like that. But that's something we can touch up later on. It's yeah, it should have a nice shine by the end. It's going to take a lot of work, but it'll be worth it. Okay, after a lot of trial and error, I've actually switched compounds altogether, and also polisher. Gone with the rotary, random orbital or forced orbital. Just wasn't doing it. So it's starting to come up. It's probably a bit hard to see in the shed, but I've done a bit of a 50-50 here. You can see the line straight down there. The difference in the panel. So this is just compound. Only compound so far. But you can definitely see the change in it. So not going for perfection here. Just going for a bit of a shine on paintwork. So basically there's some really big deep scratches still in there. I'm not going to touch them because it is white, you're not going to see them out in the sun, and the idea is it still gets used as a ute, so I want to leave as much paint on as possible. You could keep going and go further and have to measure the paint. I've got a paint depth gauge, but by doing that, you limit your ability to correct anything further on down the track. So it is still going to get driven, but yeah, you can see it's starting to shine up a bit. Yeah, so it should present okay. Here we are, a day and a half after polishing. It's come up alright. It does show a lot of the imperfections in the paintwork, but at the end of the day, you know, who doesn't like a shiny ute? So front bar has to be changed, painted. Rear bar has to be painted too, but all in all, it's actually getting a shine off it. So this is actually a lot of touch-ups need to be done too. Little things like that battery explosion there. Edges of the doors are really quite bad. Any gap been rubbed on. So down there on this side, I found information inside it when I cleaned it out. Guessing it was an elderly owner, first owner. So a bit of touch parking done on the passenger side. That front grille I repainted already, so front bar will need to be repainted. Headlights were just 2 out of 3 sets that I had that were really good. Hood lining, that's why the trim's still out. Hood lining will have to be done, but what I do have is central locking. It's all working, the remote's working, the wind deflector, that's the passenger side one, I've got the driver's side. So things like replaced, this trim piece here was broken, so that came out of the other ute. It never had the lid for the console. Dash mat wasn't originally inside it either, and just all the vents were full of crud. Some were broken, so I swapped them out with the wreck. Steering wheel was swapped out with the wreck. Ignition barrel did not turn. Well, it did, but it was a long fight to get it to turn, so that all got changed too, and coded to the new key. So door lock and ignition barrel are now on the same key, which is handy. This door trim came out of the other ute. A few little bits of polish got spattered on there. Oh, it's just dust. That's good. So luckily it was the same trim as this one. The other one's a bench seat. Also ended up changing window regulator out of the other ute too into this one, because someone had decided to somehow cross thread the screw holding the window winder in and snap the bolt off in there, which is super impressive, but also a pain in the ass. And also the entire door actuation unit, so the actual mechanism was worn in this one. It wouldn't lock, you'd have to physically push down the button to get it to lock, so changed that out, that fixed that up. Seats got removed, shampooed and then steam cleaned. You can still see a bit of a dirty patch over there, shows up really well on the camera. In natural light you can't see it so much, but it will just need a good wash. As I showed you previously, all this scuttle panel, I've cleaned all that out too, hosed all that out, so that looks really good now, and there's no rust in there, which is just an absolute bonus for me too, because once it starts it's really hard to stop. So, but no, it'd be a nice clean ute. So once hood lining's done, that'll be recovered in another video. But paint the front bar, paint the rear bar, tint the windows, new windscreen, 2 front tyres, chrome dress rings, chrome centre caps, lowered, and obviously a bit of paintless dent removal, because I don't think, no matter how much you polish, it's not going to hide things like that. Anyway, thanks for watching.